Okay, and we are live.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to double check. Martin, are you able to hear me clearly?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. I'm Jim Pruitt. I'm the General Manager of the San Mateo County Harbor District. And I want to thank you for taking your time out of your schedule tonight to join us. This is a staff level workshop to seek your input on the district's priorities for capital improvement. Your input's critical as we carry out our duties. So I want to thank you again for joining us. The harbor and the marina, including the environment of both, provide public access, recreational, environmental, transportation, fishery, and business opportunities. To maintain these opportunities, the district has a capital improvement plan which addresses necessary upgrades and replacements. The current improvement plan has multiple projects. The projects, to complete them all, would take an estimated $48 million. But I'm going to hold there. Martin, were you going to share the slideshow?
Yes, yes, thank you.
We'll pause for that so we can do the second slide.
Can everyone see it? Is it visible to you, Jim?
It is. And that's the second slide, right? Yep.
Yep.
So to state that again, the current improvement plan to complete all the projects on it would take an estimated $48 million. But given the current fiscal outlook, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and projected revenues for the district over the next several years, the district will have about $14.5 million to fund capital improvement projects. Thus, we'll need to prioritize the projects we take on. At tonight's workshop, we will present the capital improvement plan. We'll answer questions and seek your input. What we learned from this workshop will be presented to the Harbor Commissioners as they consider the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, which includes the 5-year capital improvement plan. I also want to stress that the online survey, an online survey has been developed, and we ask that you take a few minutes to complete that survey. The survey will be open until next Friday. The results of that survey will be considered and incorporated into the workshop report that will be provided to the Harbor Commissioners. To access the survey, please go to smharbor.com. If you want to provide a more detailed or longer input, we welcome that, and you can email us at info@smharbor.com. With that, I'm going to turn over the microphone to Martin Rausch. Martin.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. Good evening. As Jim mentioned, the full list of approved projects is totals over $48 million. It's around 20 projects, I think just a few fewer. So there's a lot of detail when you're considering almost $50 million in projects. And while I guess that probably many of you are pretty well informed about these projects and the district, others may not be so much. So we have a brief introduction to the district, a little walkthrough about the district, and then we're going to take a quick tour of each of the projects so that we all have sort of a common base of information, common base of facts. I know that many of you are probably anxious to share your input, but I'm going to ask you to be a little bit patient and hold your input till we get past that part of the presentation, which will come right after the projects. And we'll explain how the public input section of the evening will go. In the meantime, if you just have a simple question, we don't want to make you wait till the end of that. So we do have a way for you to answer questions or ask a question. If you're online and not using your phone, you can use the chat function, and you could just simply pose a question there. We'll watch for it, and we'll pause periodically to answer those questions. If you're on the phone and not on computer audio, you can press *9, and that will cause a little raise your hand feature to go up, and we'll respond to your question and allow you to speak. I would encourage you, though, to keep those to just brief questions so we can get through all the material and get to the input period. The only other thought I have is the district has held at least one or more virtual board meetings, but this is our first community forum. So I'd ask for a little bit of patience if we have a little glitch here or there, but we have made an effort to make this as smooth and productive for you as possible. So there's the instructions to use the chat function or press *9. And the agenda for the evening is very straightforward. It will include that introduction, which I just mentioned, a quick photo tour of the harbor and marina, just a minute or two. And then we're going to work through that summary of all the proposed upgrades, replacements, and new facilities. Then we'll set aside most of the time of the evening. There should be substantial time for you to get your input. And we'll explain how that will work when we get there. And finally, we'll close the meeting. We'll explain what's next with the capital improvement program, how the board, the next steps for the board to take this input and make their next decisions. And there's opportunities for you to participate there as well. With that, let's look at the quick introduction to the district. It was established in 1933 by the County Board of Supervisors, who set the county as the boundaries of the district. It's a county-wide district, even though it serves a harbor on the coast and a marina on the bayside. The harbor, Pillar Point Harbor, I'm sure you're all familiar with, was completed in 1961, and it was developed after coastsiders pushed to get a breakwater built. The district owns and built the harbor along with the Army Corps of Engineers. The district's relationship with Oyster Point Marina began in 1977 when it began managing and operating the marina. It's owned by the city of South San Francisco, and the district used loans and grants from the state to build the docks, public facilities, a fishing pier, boat launch ramp, etc. So the district manages and operates that, and it's a city marina. And let's just take a quick tour. I think probably many of you, probably all of you, have certainly seen Pillar Point Harbor. That's just a quick view of it. It's got a number of different facilities. Here's a few listed: boat launch, boat hoist, boat trailers, parking, restrooms, different things. Beautiful places to walk, ride your bike, a number of restaurants and some retail stores, sport fishing. Here's a little retail area where most of the retail and restaurants are. People fishing off the pier, kayak rentals, nonprofits, of course, a commercial fishing industry. And that's just our quick little tour. Oyster Point Marina is on the bay, right, in South San Francisco. It's considerably smaller. It does have a ferry terminal, goes across the bay. Also, nice, attractive areas to go for a stroll, a fishing pier, other features. This is just a picture that, representing that the district does search and rescue. That's their boat. I think that's a Coast Guard helicopter. Small staff. I don't know that it's specifically exactly 38 right now, but a relatively small staff to run the two facilities, take care of all the maintenance, deal with capital facilities like we're going to talk about tonight, and take care of many other things like oil spill response if that becomes necessary, etc. So that's our quick run through of the sort of quick tour. I'm going to hand it back to Jim, and him and John Morin will walk through the various capital facility proposed projects.
Thank you, Martin. Before we go through the project list itself, I'd like to explain how we put the list together. The list is divided into 4 separate categories. Category A concludes projects the district is required to complete by legal or other agreements. Category B projects are highly recommended projects by district staff that have high public, environmental, and benefits to the district. Category C projects are also staff recommended projects that, if additional funding is located or identified, they should be completed. Category D projects, which based on funding are recommended by staff, to be placed on hold. Staff placed the projects in this order as a starting point for the discussion. The priority of the projects may change based on public input and decision and direction of the Board of Harbor Commissioners. One other note, the Johnson Pier project is a very large project. It includes expanding the end of Johnson Pier, expanding the dock over the current refrigerator flat area, replaces and expands H dock, and replaces and improves the fuel dock. This larger project is estimated to be $14.6 million to complete. The district has already expended close to $800,000 in planning, design, and permitting expenses for this project. However, given the district only has $14.5 million available for all capital improvement projects right now, it may be unrealistic to continue to pursue this as a single project. As a result, staff has split the projects up into 3 separate sub-projects for discussion purposes and potential options. The first project, sub-project is listed as Project 1 or B1. This project would provide a concrete pier above the current refrigerator flat located on the inside of the L of Johnson Pier. This would more than double the working surface of the end of Johnson Pier. Rough cost for this estimate, or rough cost estimate, is $4.5 million to $5 million to complete. The second sub-project is listed as D1B. Project D1B would extend Johnson Pier itself past the fuel dock. This would provide an area for the trucks to pull into and be loaded, minimizing the impact to the working areas of Johnson Pier. Rough estimate to complete that project is $5.5 to $6 million. The third sub-project out of the Johnson Pier project is listed as D1C. Project D1C would replace and extend H-dock, expand, reconfigure, and improve the fuel dock. Rough estimate to complete that project is $4.5 to $5 million. Each of the above projects will be discussed later in this presentation. Now, if we can move to the capital improvement plan, slide A1. The first 4 projects in category A are required by legal and other agreement. Project A1 is the Pillar Point Harbor Tenant Row ADA restroom. Currently, there is no ADA restroom in Tenant Row at Pillar Point Harbor. The district is required to provide restrooms at Tenant Row that are compliant with the American Disabilities Act. The new restrooms will make Pillar Point more accessible to all users of the harbor and meet legal requirements and obligations of the district. The deadline to complete this project is December 1st, 2020. Estimated cost is $400,000. I'm just taking a quick minute to look at the comments. Okay. Project A2 is the Pillar Point RV Park restroom and Greenspace improvements. This project includes the construction of a new restroom facility and shower facility, new ADA parking, installation of electric car charging stations, and improved green space at the south end of Pillar Point RV Park next to Surfers Beach. The district's required to complete this project based on the coastal development permit issued by the city of Half Moon Bay. This project is currently in the design and engineering phase. We have spent approximately $13,000 on this project to date and received a grant up to $298,000. Funding required to complete the project is estimated to be $340,000. Project A3 is a dock survey for docks 1 through 6 at Oyster Point Marina. Per the 2018 agreement between between the Harbor District and the City of South San Francisco, the district is required to conduct a condition survey of docks 1 through 6 no later than December 31st, 2023. The estimated cost for the survey is $100,000. Project A4 is the replacement of docks 12, 13, and 14 at Oyster Point Marina. Again, per the 2018 agreement between the district and the City of South San Francisco, the district is required to replace docks 12th, 13th, and 14th at Oyster Point Marina no later than December 31st, 2024. The estimated cost is $6.5 million. Now I'm going to turn the mic over to John Moran to talk about Category B projects.
All right, project B1 is the Pillar Point Harbor Johnson Pier expansion, the concrete pier inside the L only. As the general manager relayed earlier, for purposes of this discussion, the Johnson Pier expansion H-dock replacement project has been broken up into 3 parts. This portion, if made into a separate project to be done first, would expand the east side end of Johnson Pier by building out the concrete deck, replacing the current timber platform which the large refrigerator units currently rest on. The timber platform is in poor condition, so needs removed. We recently repaired failing support pilings as a temporary fix. This project would also allow more room for trucks and other equipment to maneuver, improving safety. It would allow more room for the commercial fish buyers to operate. All 3 commercial fish buyers would or could then have equal storage space for their bins and an equal number of hoists. The project is estimated, this portion of the project, if done solely, would be estimated at $4.5 million. We currently do not have a grant opportunity identified, even though we have applied for multiple grants for the overall project. B2 is the Surfers Beach Pilot Sand Replenishment Project. This project entails removing 75,000 cubic yards of sand from within Pillar Point Harbor East Outer Breakwater and placing the sand for beneficial reuse on the outside of the breakwater on Surfers Beach. The project would improve safety of outer harbor and remove sediment buildup that threatens the launch ramp. The project also addresses erosion threatening Highway 1 in front of Surfers Beach. After the sand has been deposited, its movement and benefit would be monitored closely, potentially paving the way for a larger like project. Design engineering and permit has been underway for over 4 years, with construction planned to begin in 2021. This project is estimated to cost upward of $1.2 million. We have already secured $800,000 DBW grant for actual construction, and we already secured an OPC grant for over $70,000 that's been spent already for design engineering to help supplement the cost of design engineering. B3 is the Pillar Point Harbor West Trail Shoreline Protection Restoration Project. The West Trail natural area is heavily used by the public. The trail has been suffering from erosion from waterside, threatening public access and access for emergency personnel and equipment to Mavericks Beach. Construction is planned for 2020 and an estimated cost of $1.5 million. There is potential grant funding that we're trying to pin down, but nothing has been solidified as of yet. B4 is development of a district master plan. Master plans have been proven to benefit agencies in their attempts at smarter long-range planning of projects. Programmatic plans are also favored for permitting and grant opportunities. It increases the efficiency, saves money in the long run, and produces better outcomes, better projects for the public. This master plan for the district is estimated at $350,000. And again, no grants have been identified yet for the master plan either.
This is Jim Pruitt again, and I'll take over with the projects under Category C, which the district the staff feels are high priority projects for the district if additional funding becomes available.
Jim, could I pause for one moment? We had a question about Surfers Beach. can we replenish Surfers Beach with sand dredged from the launch ramp?
Yes,
John?
I'll say that's one of the goals, as I just mentioned. It's going to, the project will be removing deposits of sediment, of good, clean sand that surrounds and threatens our Pillar Point Harbor launch ramp. And in fact, we've already had to remove, as a separate project, had to remove some sand about a year ago from the east launch ramp because it had built up such that the east launch ramp was unusable at low tide. That sand is now being stored for beneficial reuse at the Half Moon Bay Airport, and is either going to be used at Surfers Beach, but it seems more likely at the West Trail project at present. But the remaining sand that continues to build up within the outer breakwater will be used at Surfers Beach.
Thank you, John.
Any further questions, Martin?
No, I think we're good. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so going back to Project C's, our under project category C, which again, the staff believes are a high priority for the district and recommends that the projects move forward if funding becomes available. Is Project C1 is the vehicle and vessel replacement. This is an ongoing process to repair, replace, or upgrade our vehicles in our fleet as each ends its useful life. The estimated cost over the next 5 years for this program is approximately $1 million. Grant money may be possible for this program, and we actively pursue that grant money. Project C2, the new Harbor District Administration Building. This project involves the construction of a new building for the district. The district currently occupies leased office space in El Granada at an annual cost of $100,000 a year. Current lease expires May 31st, 2021. The district is currently seeking a lease extension through May 31st, 2024. Estimated cost for this project is approximately $2 million. Project C3 is the district enterprise resource planning system. Current IT system or financial systems are out of date, and many are no longer supported by their manufacturer. All financial systems are managed by this enterprise planning system, including monthly transactions, lease payments, slip management. The new system will allow online payment, a function that's not currently offered by the district. The system will also improve our ability to ensure financial accountability and transparency as we continue to comply with fiscal requirements and auditing. The estimated cost for this project is approximately $1.1 million. And I'm going to go ahead and continue on with category D projects. These projects are projects that the staff is recommending be placed on hold until the funding situation improves. The first project I already discussed earlier tonight was the full Johnson Pier reconfiguration, and I won't repeat it all here, but again, that project is a total cost of $14.6 million to complete. Project D1B is one of the sub breakouts of Johnson Pier extension. If we chose this as a project, it will involve extending Johnson Pier itself past the current endpoint to the west. This would result in Johnson Pier creating an area for trucks to pull into and be loaded outside the general work area of the end of Johnson Pier. And that project cost is approximately $5.5 to $6 million. The final project of the breakout from the Johnson Pier is the upgrade Johnson Pier fuel dock and replace and expand H-dock. This again is out of the overall project of Johnson, the major project. It involves replacing and reconfiguring the fuel dock and the replacement and expansion of the H dock. The cost of this project is roughly estimated to be around $4.5 to $5 million. Project D2 is the Pillar Point launch ramp and boat wash. This project would include the removal and replacement of the existing restroom facility at the boat ramp. The building is over 20 years old. It needs to be replaced to improve safety, sanitary conditions, and ADA upgrades, or American with Disability Act upgrades. Project would also include improvements to the boat wash. The estimated cost for this project is $1.7 million. Project D3 is the Pillar Point Harbor Parking Lot Improvement Project. This project improves significant safety improvements throughout Pillar Point Harbor with the addition of crosswalks, painted pedestrian routes, pavement marks, and re-slurry for the entire surface. The estimated cost for this project is around $680,000. Project D4 is the replacement of docks G, F, and E at Pillar Point Harbor. This project would replace those three docks. The docks have exceeded their service life and need to be replaced. The estimated cost for this project is approximately $9.6 million. Project D5 is the Pillar Point Signage Wayfinding Program. This program would provide a comprehensive and an integrated wayfinding system at Pillar Point Harbor. It would bring Pillar Point Harbor into compliance with ADA requirements for wayfinding and would greatly increase accessibility at the harbor for all users. The estimated cost for this project is $100,000. Project D6 is the Coastal Trail Improvement Project. This project involves a coastal trail that runs through Pillar Point Harbor. The project would improve safety and make the trail more accessible to the public. Estimated cost is $200,000. Project D7 is Pillar Point Harbor Habitat Restoration. The project would involve the identification and removal of non-native vegetation at Pillar Point Harbor and replacing with native drought-tolerant plants and vegetation. The estimated cost for this project is $400,000. And then the final project is Project D8, the Oyster Point Marina Retail Building. Pursuant to the 2018 agreement between the district and South San Francisco, the Harbor District has the opportunity to design and build a retail space at Oyster Point. The rental and lease revenue from that retail space would then be retained by the Harbor District. Estimated cost is approximately $2 million for this project. Martin?
Thank you, Jim. So that's all the projects, and we get to the part you've been waiting for, I suspect, the opportunity for you to talk and provide input. Again, just like the questions, the way that you can comment, and we invite you to have the opportunity to speak, to be let in and unmuted, would be online. Use the chat function to indicate that you're interested in making a comment. If you just want to write your comment, we can read it for you, or everyone can actually see it. But if you want to speak, indicate that you want to speak. We'll take each person in turn. If you're on the phone and you're not online, press *9, and that will give a little signal to us, and we'll put you on the list. We'll just take each person in turn. We have plenty of time to give everyone an opportunity to provide input. Each person will be given an equal allotted time. We're going to start with 2 minutes apiece. If everybody took their opportunity, we have around 30 people, it'd take an hour. The district is seeking input from all of you on which capital improvements should be prioritized. But when you get your chance to speak, if you want to speak, you can use your allotted time as you desire to ask and receive answers to questions, share your priorities, make a comment related to this topic, or however you want to use your 2 minutes. I have a little timer here. You'll hear the timer go off at 2 minutes. I'll give you a little warning at 15 seconds before, 30 seconds before, so you can tell how your time is ticking down. and I'd ask for your, you know, consideration and stick close to your 2-minute limit so everyone can have a fair opportunity. If we have time, which I suspect we will, we can go around again. If people have additional comments, you can have another turn. So everyone will get an opportunity. So with that, I'm going to have Lizzie indicate by turning people on if there's anyone who wants to speak. But I do see a question here, Jim, written down in chat. There are no initiatives for improving the water quality in Pillar Point Harbor. Can you please address that? Is the bond money coming from county, state, or federal, or a combination thereof? So Jim, that was a chat comment that we can go ahead and answer.
The overall, there are water quality improvement projects that have been ongoing at the harbor. I know over the last couple of years or longer. There is no specific capital improvement project approved on the CIP plan right now that addresses water quality at all yet. But it doesn't mean we can't address it in our everyday work.
Thank you, Jim. There's another question after that. It says, I'm working from the I think they mean working from the proposed budget. I did not have the current rankings available to me there. I can just go ahead and note, Jim, if it's okay, that on the website, well, where the agenda was found, there is a document, I believe it's called spreadsheet or project list, and you can download it there. You can find the link off the homepage right at the top. It has the information about this meeting, and you can find that document there.
Martin, we do have a couple of hands raised in the chat. James Lee, you're unmuted for comment.
Thank you. So thanks for having this meeting. I just wanted to, hold on one second, there we go. I just wanted to talk real quickly about my priorities. For context, I'm a Redwood City resident. I'm in Seattle right now, finishing my master's in marine policy. So making improvements in ADA is important. That should be done at both sites. That should be a priority. But I do believe that the city of South San Francisco should be paying for their own infrastructure at Oyster Point Marina. That infrastructure is not owned by the Harbor District, unlike the infrastructure at Pillar Point. The agreement that you have with South City under the JPA says that the Harbor District manages Oyster Point. It is not responsible for infrastructure. Just to reemphasize something I said at the last Finance Committee meeting, we are dealing with the COVID crisis. All public agencies need to be really conservative and safe about what they're spending because COVID can and will impact finances for all public agencies. With that in mind, I think it's really good to focus your attention on Pillar Point and make sure that the city of South San Francisco is paying for their own office park that they're trying to develop in South City. I also wanted to talk about the Johnson Pier upgrades. I think it's a great idea that you're doing it, but I don't believe that it should be piecemealed. You have in your own list of proposed projects the word programmatic mentioned a few times, and I believe that the Coastal Commission would prefer that any upgrades that are done to Johnson Pier be done in a programmatic way, and in a way that's taking into account ADA, public access, and public safety. Lastly, I just wanted to really emphasize the Surface Beach Replenishment Project. I know that's been going on for a while. You got Brad Dammett's online and connected with the district in 2014. That was a long time coming, and that needs to be finished. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
We have another raised hand, C. Fernandez. You've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. Can you hear me okay?
You're cutting out a little bit.
Okay, sorry. I get closer here. Is that better?
Okay. looks like I'm sorry, it looks like we can't hear you. I don't know if you have the chat function. You might try typing in there. Martin, can you hear?
No, I can't hear.
Okay.
Let's ask if the person would type into chat, or they can email us later, do the survey. And why don't we move on to the next person, Lizzie?
Okay, then the next hand, M. Allen, you've been unmuted for comment.
Good evening, Harbor Commission and community members. I would just like to say that your #1 priority should be the beach nourishment and dredging of the harbor, protect Highway 1. And that's all I say, make it your #1 priority. Thank you.
Let's pause for a moment, Lizzie. Amanda, did you get that comment? Were you able to type that?
Can you repeat it, actually? I have, can you hear me? Oh.
Could the person who made
can you
that comment repeat it?
Is that M. Allen you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah,
I got part of it, but then just, yeah.
I'm addressing the
Number
commission
one.
or make beach replenishment and dredging of the harbor the #1 priority.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who's next, Lizzie?
Martin, we have a couple of questions in the chat. So the first one, and we're going in rounds, so everyone will get a chance to talk, and then we'll go back to the second comments. Is that correct?
Sure.
So we've got from John Ullum. A few weeks ago, we were told that there was a subsidy available to make some of the docks at OPM ADA compliant. Is that still available?
Jim?
For the construction of docks, for the construction of docks 12, 13, and 14, we'll apply for any grant money that may be available for ADA compliant issues. And then docks 1 through 6, the only thing we're considering right now is the survey that's required under the agreement.
Okay, thank you.
I also, if I may, there was we missed a couple questions up at top. Is the board money coming from county, or bond money coming from county, state, or federal? I'm not familiar with the bond in which they're referring to. So if you can clarify that, we'll try to get a response to you. And then another funding question was the funding short for project beyond in construction design permitting is 16 million. Taking into account operating deficits, there are on 3.5 mil available and funding shortfall of 16.5. How do you plan on reconciling this? And I would like to speak. So if we can unmute Bud, that would be great.
I'm
Hey, Bud.
unmuted. I'm
Yep.
unmuted right now.
Okay.
I'll turn the video on. I did a spreadsheet summarizing the capital projects that were in the proposed operating budget and broke them down into 3 categories. Ones that are under construction, ones that are in design, engineering, or permitting. And Johnson Pier was included in that, but you've done some changes to Johnson Pier. And then all the other projects were not approved. And if you spread those out over the timetable and accounting for the deficit at the end, which we started incurring in 22, 23 forward, and if you smooth the election costs, you're running about a 1.2 to 1.3 annual deficit. And we have a list of capital projects of 20 million that are not approved or funded. So, the important thing here is deciding on priorities and what's essential to maintaining the operating aspects of the district. And are going out and finding additional funding sources. My funding sources were net working capital. I had already taken into account the grants proposed for the Johnson Pier. But this is a discussion that we should have, maybe not at this time, but at some point in the future, is that a discussion about individual capital projects absent a funding context is rather pointless. And I just would encourage you to, look at the funding sources and start to address the funding issue, not only for continuing operations, but for capital needs in the future. Is that at this point in time, the needs of the district are greatly exceed the available funding sources. Thank you.
Thank you, Bud. What's next, Lizzie?
So we have a raised hand. Coast Dem Dan, you have been unmuted for comment.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Thank you for holding this virtual meeting. I have some concerns that I'd like to go through and have it on record. That number one, with the survey deadline, I think that if the Harbor District truly wants a real cross-community participation with this survey, you should extend the deadline. I just heard about this last night at the Midcoast Community Council meeting, and I try to stay on top of the Harbor District, but there's a lot of things going on in everybody's individual lives right now. This short time duration here with the survey, I think you're really not going to get the input that you should want to receive. I'm also concerned somewhat about overbuilding the harbor, considering the Highway 1 congestion and the limitations with Capistrano Road and the intersection there at Highway 1. I'm concerned with the RV surfers beach restrooms, that so many parking spaces are going to be lost. I think that should be looked at to try to maximize the public parking. I don't believe it's a good idea to, of course, the restroom's a good idea, but you really should try to save and provide more parking. That's very important. I'm also concerned with the overall tax dollar expenditures, considering the current coronavirus situation, and not only the Harbor District.
Can we wrap it up in just a moment?
But also, all of the cities in the county across the board having tight budgets, the state included.
All right. Would you mind holding? We'll give everyone a chance, and we can come back to you. We're giving everyone 2 minutes.
So Martin, we do have another question in the chat from B. Diener. Replacement of docks number 12, 13, 14 is scheduled for 2024 completion with start in 2020, 2021, but no secured funding is noted. Is there funding identified for this? Is the engineering completed for this project? Is a 2021 project start realistic?
Jim?
Am I unmuted?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, you're unmuted.
And this is the replacement docks for 12, 13, and 14?
Correct.
So we won't be expending any money in 2021 per se. We will, if the project is approved to move forward, we'll be entering the request for proposals to start moving forward in that. I don't see the money outlays coming until 2023 and 2024.
Okay, thank you. Lizzie, and where do we go next?
We have another question, comment from John. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, C. Fernandez was able to join us via chat. So that was that original comment that we weren't able to hear. Hi, it's Christina Fernandez with the City of South San Francisco. I believe I've fixed my audio. If you could please try me again. Thank you. So let's give her a try. Christina, you've been unmuted for comment. Christina, are you there? Christina?
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
It's breaking up, but let's give it another try.
I'll put it in chat and send it your way. I just wanted to say thank you so much for hosting us. I know it's a really trying time for everyone, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate. Here's Christina Fernandez. I'm the city manager for the City of South San Francisco, and we just wanted to thank you so much and thank the general manager and the Harbor District staff for everything you guys do, and for working so collaboratively with the city to address issues as they arise at Oyster Point. We did just want to stress that we request the prioritization, obviously, of the two Oyster Point projects, namely Docks 12 through 14, because replacement is essential for the safety and future success of Oyster Point Marina. And as you know, these needs were identified as early as 2014, when the Harbor District initiated a conditions assessment at Oyster Point. Replacing wooden pier structures with concrete piers to improve safety, enhance marketability of the berths, and lower maintenance costs. So Docks 1 through 6 not far behind in terms of needing maintenance for in terms of mandatory replacements.
Christina, can I jump in and interrupt for a moment? We can't hear you. I think I would like to suggest that you can communicate a number of ways with us, but if you want people to hear what you're saying tonight, maybe just put it on chat, a summary of what you're saying, because we can't really hear you.
Or if you can call in by telephone.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, we do have a comment from John Ullum in the chat that was not acknowledged. The Harbor District is an enterprise district. Will investments at OPM pay for themselves?
Jim?
The investments at OPM are going into the facilities and structures, and revenues from Oyster Point will increase. To what amount the revenues will increase is unknown right now due to an improved facility. But to cover the cost of replacing those docks is substantial. So trying to say they're going to recover, I can't say that right now, no.
Okay, good. So Lizzie?
We have a question in the chat from Tom Wilhelm. He says, I'm not sure why my question was unclear and glossed over. My question was, where is the needed money coming from, county, state, or federal?
Go ahead and answer that question again, or ask that question again, Lizzie.
Sure. I'm not sure. So this is from Tom Wilhelm. I'm not sure why my question was unclear and glossed over. My question was, where is the needed money coming from, county, state, or federal?
So you're asking for where the district received funds. The funds are from property taxes and from revenue generated as an enterprise district. But if I could ask Julie to address that a little bit further, that would be great.
Yes, the funds are savings that the district had from prior surpluses in their budget. And so we've accumulated some reserves to fund these projects. It's not from any other source unless there is a identified grant associated with that particular project.
Thank you, Julie. All right.
So Martin, it looks like we're on to the second round of comments. If nobody else wants to comment a first time, I can go ahead and open those up.
Let's
Okay.
start again.
All right, so we have another comment from John Ullum in the chat. Thanks for ADA response, but the question was not answered. Is the OPD subsidy that Mr. Pruitt previously described at a subcommittee meeting still available? Oh, I'm sorry, there's another part. If it is, why is this project not on the list?
The project that was discussed earlier is not an approved CIP project. So therefore it's not on this list. And is it still available? I do not know at this time.
Okay, there was another question asked if we have a translator.
No, we do not.
And I do not see any more questions in the chat. Okay, I do see a couple of raised hands. Theodore Vecchioni, you've been unmuted for comment.
Hi, my name's Theo, and my family and I, we live at Pillar Point Harbor. We've been here about 3 years. And this is the first time I've ever participated in one of your meetings. I want to thank you guys for having this online meeting so that we can chime in. Hopefully this will continue in the future because it's nice to hear what's going on basically. I don't have any comments on all the projects that you've listed because I don't understand enough about them. But I would say that as someone who lives here at Pillar Point Harbor, one thing that we really need is a facility for repairing stuff. We live on our boat and there's nothing here. So at some point in the future, in the grand scheme of planning, it'd be nice if we looked at some way to repair boats that happen to stay here permanently. In any case, thank you guys for having this meeting. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Theo.
We have another hand raised in the chat. James Lee, you've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you. So I just wanted to, this is semi-related to Dan's comment. I agree with his comment that you should extend the survey deadline. I did not see even the agenda, let alone the survey, go up until less than 24 hours ago, which is fine. I get, things are weird. We're all working from home, most of us. We've got COVID going on, but in order to increase public participation, it would be great to have that deadline extended, maybe another press release put out, maybe have the survey up on the main webpage as opposed to behind a link that you have to click through. Just going back to some of my priorities, what I would like to see. So my training is in wetland ecology and in restoration work. So I am a little bit biased, but I would really emphasize not just the Surfers Beach Replenishment Project, but also the West Trail Project. As was mentioned, it's a very high public use area. It's important for public access. I do have concerns about the consultant that was hired because their recommendation had no consideration of more cost-effective, longer-term approaches like managed retreat, living shorelines techniques to protect the eroding beach, stuff like that. So I would ask that you prioritize the West Trail, but maybe ask your consultant if there are other alternatives that might be a little cheaper than putting up a soil nail wall, which from last I heard is the option that the district is going with. I also just wanted to add real briefly that the investments for the docks at OPM or Oyster Point Marina for docks 12, 13, and 14, I don't believe should come out of the pocket of the Harbor District. I'm just going to emphasize that again. Improvements are necessary, they need to be done, but South City needs to be doing them. This should not be on county taxpayers. Thank you.
Martin,
you.
we have C. Fernandez's comment in the chat available. Did you want to read it or would you like me to read it?
Why don't you go ahead and read it, Lizzie?
Okay, so it says, it's fairly long, so you'll have to listen to my voice. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment on the capital project portfolio tonight. First, we would like to thank General Manager Pruitt and Harbor District staff for working collaboratively with the city to address issues as they arise at Oyster Point Marina. They have been a pleasure to work with. The City of South San Francisco requests the Commission prioritize the replacement of docks 12, 13, 14, as replacement is essential for safety and future success at Oyster Point Marina. Replacement of these docks have long been recognized as a priority need, identified as early as a 2014 Harbor District initiated conditions assessment of Oyster Point Marina. These docks are barely functional. Replacing these high maintenance wooden pier structures with concrete piers will improve safety, enhance the marketability of the berths, and lower maintenance costs. It was for these reasons that replacement of these docks by a date certain was a key part of the new operating agreement between SMCHD and SSF. Docks 1. And that's where it is.
Okay, it looks like it kind of peters out there. All right, let's go to the next one then.
Okay, Coast Dem Dan, you've been unmuted for comment.
Okay, thank you. And just for the record, my name's Dan Haggerty, 154 Madrid Avenue, El Granada, 31-year resident here. My question is to Jim in regards to two questions. One regarding, the survey and the purpose. I didn't really hear an outline of the purpose and the usage and the plans of the usage of the survey. Also, Jim and I spoke regarding the administration building planned at the post office lot, and my concern, along with the community's concern, about having an open space in the corner and potentially a retail, some type of a small retail element that could provide some walkability and life and need to be there at the corner. I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking like a juice bar, or that's not important, but some type of community serving retail element. Now, I know that there has been some messages sent about concern with community rooms. I want to say that I believe that we already have, the El Granada school community room that could very well serve as an overflow for some of the other, some of the bigger, larger attendance meetings in the area. I think that it's very important to the community to have a well-planned downtown. We only have a 1-block downtown. Now, your building that you're proposed is in that area of community
And
commercial.
could you try to wrap it in a moment? We can come back to you if you need another chance.
Oh, happy to come back to me if you want to pause me. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Dan. Lizzie?
We have another comment from John Ullum in the chat. Please describe the difference between the district's relationship to Pillar Point Harbor versus the relationship with OPM. Does the district make profit from, or does it subsidize operations and district investments at OPM?
Jim?
Julie, did you want to address the financial piece?
The district receives income from both enterprise services and property taxes. The property taxes is about 2/3 of the district's income. And Both of the harbors, Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina, if you look at pure revenues, which is the berth revenues, less the operating expenditures, they both run at a deficit. We do have plenty of property tax money to fill in that deficit. But the thought is that both of those harbor and the marina, they both do public services. It's not all just enterprise services. So things like search and rescue, maintaining park properties, providing services to the general public, public restrooms, things like that. Those would all be paid for using property tax monies. We pay for all of our administrative costs using property tax monies. And then historically, we've had $2 to $3 million budgetary surpluses, which go and accumulate to fund our capital projects.
Thank you, Julie. Lizzie?
So we have Dan Haggerty again with a raised hand. Co-Stem Dan, you've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you. So yes, I'm interested in a response regarding the survey. Can we have it extended? Do we truly want to have a good cross section of the community participating? How can we ensure that?
All right, Jim, the survey has a deadline. Can you explain a little bit about the deadline and whether it can be extended and what will happen with the information?
I've heard a strong desire to extend the deadline, and we'll definitely look into the possibility of extending that deadline because we do want a broad brush and input from everybody that we can. And we've already had what I think is a good response to the survey within the first day. Excuse me. The main reason we set this is we're in the middle of a budget process, and this is all part of the budgeting process for the board and staff recommendation to the board on what projects we would recommend to continue to move forward on. And my conflict with extending the survey is, will we be able to receive the survey in time and being able to analyze all the input from the survey in time to provide the board with a complete or with a report and recommendations in time to pass our budget by the budget deadline set by the state, which is the end of July, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The preliminary budget has to be passed at least 30 days ahead of the final budget, which is at the end of July.
All right. Thank you, Dan. We got that one question hopefully covered for you. You can come back depending on who's in line. Lizzie, where do we stand with questions?
We have a raised hand from James Lee. James Lee, you've been unmuted for comment.
Thanks, Lizzie. I just wanted to go back to Oyster Point. So the site itself, as most of staff and attending elected officials at this meeting should know, is a poorly capped landfill. There's been subsidence issues with the landfill for years. There's issues with water quality and soil quality. When I was an undergraduate at San Francisco State, I actually went to Oyster Point Marina to collect water and soil samples for an environmental chemistry project. There's a lot of problematic stuff happening there, and I just do not feel that it is right for the Harbor District to be spending money there when it is, again, not the county's infrastructure. I would also add too that the city of South San Francisco's budget is much bigger than that of the Harbor District. That really needs to be taken into account. And that discrepancy that power imbalance, if you will, needs to be taken into account when making these decisions. Again, the revenue piece, when we're looking at what COVID has been doing to the economy, the revenue piece for public agencies is really not great at the moment. And we really have to be focusing on what is the most essential, what infrastructure does the Harbor District own, and what does the Harbor District owe to county taxpayers. And I believe it is the stuff that is at Pillar Point and is ADA and stuff that needs to be done. Even at Oyster Point, there are things that need to be done, but they should not be paid for by the Harbor District. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Lizzie, who's next?
We have a question from Libby Layden in the chat. Will the results of the survey be made public?
Jim? You're muted. Jim, you're muted.
Yes, it will be made available to the public.
Thank you. Okay, Lizzie, are there more?
Yes, we have Bud in the chat. You mentioned a contractual obligation to City South SF as reason for doing docks at OPM. Has City of South SF meet all of its contractual obligation to the Harbor District? I do not understand just what has happened, re the fuel dock. A marina without fuel seems short of needed services.
Jim? Bud's question? You're muted again. Jim, you're muted.
Yeah, if I could ask John to address that question, and I'll fill in anything that I need to. John?
Yeah, the Oyster Point Marina fuel system, regretfully, is very old, and the fact that those underground storage tanks are single-walled, and we're having, regretfully, significant challenges. We did have to close them as they need to be replaced with double wall anyway. The district did work cooperatively with the City of South San Francisco during the transition where the City of San Francisco actually for a short time regained control of the underground storage tanks. The district did agree to take over temporary management of the fuel system so that it could remain operable. But that was under the assumption that a community facilities district would be formulated, which the City of South San Francisco, I believe, tried their best to make to fruition, but regretfully it did not come to fruition. So the district had to hand over the underground storage tanks to the City of South San Francisco, who is now safely addressing that environmental concern and having those tanks, those underground storage tanks that would have to be removed anyway, removed now. Whether or not we later end up putting, deciding to cooperate with the City of South San Francisco in some kind of a mutual agreement to install new tanks, whether underground or above ground, has yet to be determined. And your and public input may weigh on our board decision whether or not to do that. But again, the current underground storage tanks were threatening the environment, and are single-walled tanks that needed to be replaced anyway. So what's taking place now in their safe removal is the responsible thing to do. That again would have to be done anyway, and whether or not it's decided later to put new tanks in, whether underground or above ground. At present, there's no plan to do so, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done later. Again, your input is very much appreciated.
Thank you, John. Are there more questions, Lizzie?
It looks like there's a follow-up question to that from Bud. Wasn't there a fee that was to be collected by the city from the developers to cover some costs? Has this been implemented? Basic question, has the city of SSF meet all its contractual obligations, yes or not?
Jim?
They've met all obligations under the 2018 agreement.
Thank you. Lizzie, what do we have next?
Okay, we have John Ullum in the chat. Since both the district and South City have decided not to repair the fuel dock and infrastructure, how will the lack of fuel pumps at Oyster Point impact the plan to get bigger boats berthed at OPM? Will the underlying data from the survey be made available?
Jim?
It's unknown how that will impact at OPM. And yes, the survey will be made publicly available once complete via the report.
Okay, we have a raised hand from Coast Dem Dan. You've been unmuted for comment.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to say, please do not allow the bureaucracy, if you mentioned with the deadline, that would limit, excuse me, limit community participation regarding the survey. Jim, I have a question for you regarding, there was earlier a number of $2 million estimate for the building at the post office lot. I'd like to know if you can share with us any preliminary designs. Where can I find more about what has come up with the $2 million budget or estimate?
John? I'll start off, and then John, you can fill it in any blanks that I miss. Right now, the project is currently going to go back out for request for proposals when we decide to proceed with that to get a design and engineering firm hired to design and the building, get public comment, and come up with plans that, again, will be provided to the public to gain input before anything gets built. And so currently that's where it's at. The estimate is what the estimate was I was provided. I'm not quite sure where that came from. It beyond initial rough estimates that were provided when the idea was first brought up. John, do you have anything further?
Yeah, all I would add to that is, part of the discussion we're having right now is to prioritize projects. And as we heard from the public tonight, it is true that we do need to prioritize projects with our limited funds now, and potentially even less monies due to potentially tax revenue and our revenue from our tenants being reduced because of COVID-19. So we're trying to gain public input on what projects we should prioritize to best spend the monies that we do have available right now. Now, obviously, as we discussed earlier, there are benefits. We are paying already upwards of $100,000 a year for rent. So it's not to say that this project is not going to go forward. We're working through that prioritization now.
Thank you, John. Lizzie, are there additional questions?
Yes, we have John Ullum in the chat. Will there be an analysis of the impact of not having fueling infrastructure at OPM prior to investing money into docks meant to attract bigger boats?
Jim?
Currently, one is not scheduled, but it will be taken into consideration. So I appreciate the comment.
Good, thank
Yep.
you.
James Lee with a raised hand. You've been unmuted for comment.
Thank you. So I just wanted to talk about the 2018 agreement with South City. It's my understanding, it's been a little while since I've looked at it, but it's my understanding that that MOU requires that South City fix flooding problems at Oyster Point Marina. And I know that's not being done. The Harbor Master's office still gets flooded at high tides, at king tides. The underground electrical is flooding at every high tide. These are issues that need to be addressed. And this is part of the reason why I've been commenting in the way that I have with my preferences. Until these long-term issues of safety, sea level rise, climate change concerns are addressed, throwing money at infrastructure that isn't the harbor district seems problematic at best and not smart in general. Also, I just wanted to ask a question as well as to whether or not the process for evaluating the survey results will be made public. Will there, like, what's going to be the transparency around that? Will we get like the raw results to look at as well, and how that'll work? Thank you.
Jim?
With the transparency of the survey, I have no concerns or issues with providing our methodology and how the survey was interpreted and the data that we based our interpretation on. That'll be all included in the report itself.
Okay.
Lizzie?
We have Brian in the chat. The Ketch Joanne bathrooms should also be a priority. They have paid an expensive rent to the Harbor District for over 30 years. I worked there for over a decade ago, and they are an institution here on the coast.
Okay, I think we just, thank you, Brian. We have your comment.
Okay, we have Tom Wilhelm in the chat. In regards to the West Trail project, post Open Space Trust be involved?
Jim, what about the Open Space Trust?
I'm not familiar with that and being involved with the trail project. John?
All opportunities for grant funding for the West Trail are being explored. If you are aware of some, I'm not familiar with this particular one you're talking about. So if you're aware of any that we might not be aware of, please email to me.
Okay, thank you. What's next, Lizzie?
We have John Ullum in the chat. What is the status of the fueling infrastructure at Pillar Point? Is it in good shape?
I can speak to that. The fueling infrastructure at Pillar Point Harbor does currently meet all environmental standards. They're double wall tanks. We've just last year, our lessee, K&N Properties that has the lease for the fuel system, just paid a substantial amount of money to have all double line hoses, lines going out all the way to the fuel system under the dock. So to answer your question, yes, the fuel system at Pillar Point Harbor and the electronic fuel monitoring system is all compliant.
Thank you, John. What do we have next?
It looks like we don't have any raised hands or anything else in the chat.
All right then. Last call, if anyone's interested, has a question. Otherwise, we'll start to bring this to a close.
Okay, one just came up in the chat. C. Fernandez. Just a heads up that the City of South San Francisco continues to work with the US ACE on sea level rise, participating in both a continuing authorities program, CAP, and a shoreline feasibility study. Thank you for your comment. And then there's a request for Jay Morin's email address. So I'll just type that in the chat. And then we have a raised hand from James Lee. You've been unmuted.
Thanks. I just wanted to, I was going to make a final general comment, but in response to, I think Councilmember Fernandez's comment, I just wanted to say that I think it's great that South City is working with the Army Corps. I think most local governments are if they have a shoreline. But again, these flooding problems have been there for a while. The presentation that was that Commissioner Brennan again attempted to give, I think in 2017, early 2017, right after Commissioner Ciancarelli was elected. So Commissioner Brennan tried to give a presentation 3 years ago on flooding concerns, king tide concerns, sea level rise concerns, concerns about the landfill. That was 3 years ago. And it's my understanding that the landfill is still in the state that it is. So I appreciate the comment, but I would urge more action there. And just a general comment, thank you for having this workshop. Again, I know things are difficult with COVID, but please try to give more advance notice with the agenda and with supplementary materials next time a workshop is held. And please hold on soon. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Lizzie, do we have anyone else wanting to comment?
I don't believe that we have any questions in the chat. A comment was made and it will be noted for the record, and it looks like we don't have any raised hands.
All right. Okay, then. So, Jim, I brought up the what's next slide.
Yeah, again, I just want to thank everybody for participating. I think we've had some fantastic conversations. I know I've learned a lot from the input from speakers, so thank you. Our next step is to continue to take the survey and receive the survey comments and any comments submitted by email. Take the input from this workshop and start developing a report based on the workshop emails and survey comments that we do receive. We'll wrap that report up and it will be submitted to the Board of Harbor Commissioners for their consideration as they work on the 2020-21 budget for the district. As they do that and consider that budget, it will be done in public meetings, and each of you are again encouraged to participate in that budget development and discussions. Go ahead with the next slide. Again, it's for more information, if you want to provide additional information, their email address is there. It's info@smharbor.com. You can also call us to give us your comment if you prefer, or visit us, visit smharbor.com and follow the links and send a comment that way, or take the survey. Again, you can find it at smharbor.com.
Great. Well, thank you, Jim. I want to thank everyone who participated. We got a lot of great input from everyone. Look forward to hearing from the surveys and any other communication you bring. Jim, does that allow us to close the meeting?
A couple more seconds for any more comments on chat or any raised hands, Lizzie?
I don't see anything.
With that, I'd like to go ahead and close this workshop. And again, thank you personally and on behalf of the district for participating. Your input is valued.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.